morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Longer days and shorter hair on the horses, and as the snow disappears, we're finding all that junk we forgot to put away before it came last fall. And we have another good one lined up for you this week. Baxter Black has another masterpiece about a trend that seems to be accelerating in the rural West.
Well, it took the gentleman 30 minutes and 40 acres to get backed up to the loading chute. He walked back wearing his brand new black cowboy hat and carrying a bullwhip. "What do I do?" he asked.
The Rangeland News looks at the reaction to the new Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade deal.
Brand new, never seen before language on the biosciences, the biotechnologies.
One of our favorite cowboy poets who was booked for the 24th annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival before it had to be canceled, A.K. Moss, is in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight.
Then grab your saddle in your chinks when you hear that distant call, the hooves, horns, and horses when you hear the cattle bawl.
And you'll hear from a consummate top hand with horses, cattle, and people this week. He's written books, done videos, worked in the movies, Curt Pate.
They would blow the cobwebs out of them. They would go out once or twice a week and run for so many minutes. Their horses got a lot healthier.
On the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, I'll try and answer an email from a listener whose Greenbroke Appy mare just doesn't seem to steer very well. Curt Pate will have things to say about horsemanship that I know some folks probably won't agree with, but I hope you find it interesting. And I was out checking some trails, going along in a nice big trot, and this song from the Sons of the San Joaquin just kept rolling through my mind.
Cowboys all of springtime, on this we do agree. Grass and trees, the birds and bees play their symphony. My spirit sings, my horse has wings, because I'm gonna be riding for the roundup in the springtime. Yippee-yay, riding hell-bent for leather. Hear the hoofbeats pounding and my old rider sing. Yippee-yo, 'cause there just ain't nothing better than riding for the roundup in the springtime. You can hear those cowboys rousting from their bunks at early dawn. They've checked their gear and rigging as they cinch their saddles on. They've had their beans and bacon 'cause the day is hard and long. Riding for the roundup in the springtime. Yippee-yay, yippee-yay, riding hell-bent for leather. Hear the hoofbeats pounding and my old rider sing. Yippee-oh, yippee-oh, 'cause there just ain't nothing better than riding for the roundup in the springtime.
It's out and riding circle across a rough and rugged land, astride an eager pony sitting tall and looking grand. Hazing to the gather, my old pony's a dipping sand, riding for the roundup in the springtime.
Yippee-yay, yippee-yay, riding hell-bent for leather. Hear the hoofbeats pounding and my old rider sing. Yippee-oh, yippee-oh, 'cause there just ain't nothing better than riding for the roundup in the springtime. You can smell the hair a-burning and the calves are all frustrated. They're mighty scared and lonely from their mother separated. They feel the loop that drags them to the branding iron that's weighted to mark them for the roundup in the spring. When the dogies all are branded and we've turned the critters out, we're a-heading for the tavern, every cowboy knows the route. As we're a-rolling back the carpet, all the cowboys give a shout. We'll be a-riding for the roundup come next springtime. Yippee-yay, riding hell-bent for leather. Hear the hoofbeats pounding and my old rider sing. Yippee-oh, 'cause there just ain't nothing better than riding for the roundup in the springtime. Riding for the roundup in the springtime.
Curt Pate had just done a fascinating colt starting demo after a ranch rodeo at Northlands in Edmonton, and that's where I caught up with him for the first time, and within minutes it just seemed like we'd known each other for years. It seems to me, and I don't know, this is just an observation, is this huge emphasis on bending, freeing up the hindquarters has led to some people doing that so often because they're just a little bit afraid to let that horse get straight. And they're a little bit afraid of having that impulsion, and they use it kind of as an escape almost. Would that be a valid observation?
That's a real good observation. People don't want their horses to go because they can't ride good enough. That's a straight to the point fact. And it's the reason they can't ride good enough is because they haven't ridden enough. Where as a kid or as a cowboy or as a lot of these English folks that I see, they're sticky. They can really ride. So they just ride. They don't have to worry about it. But if you're afraid of your horse bucking you off or running away with you, you're going to try to do whatever you can. But the other thing I find is it's not that effective. I still see people falling off all the time, even though they bend their horses. So it isn't effective, and it creates a lot of problems, and I think it creates a lot more work in making a good, usable horse.
You gave us an example of what you observed, and we have a few listeners on KFBS in Belle Fourche, South Dakota, that may have seen you there, but you're comparing the world of the rodeo broncs to the world of the timed event horses.
Well, like I said, I was sitting in Belle Fourche, South Dakota, where I have a little ranch, and we were watching the rodeo and getting ready for the rodeo, and all the broncs were standing there in their pens, sound asleep, with their foot cocked, 7 or 8 in a pen, and kind of standing out there and not worried about anything. And the timed event horses were all getting loped in circles and warmed up for an hour or two before the rodeo, and the bucking horses, when they nod their head and they go, there's 10 seconds of pure, as much energy that can come out of a horse as possible. And then they went right back and put their head down and went to eating with their buddies, where they could figure out their pecking order and get relaxed and get comfortable. Where the timed event horses had to go back and get in the trailer and drive all night or stand tied to it, or, and they're all crippled and giving them all these medicines and wraps and all this stuff, and massage therapists and chiropractors, and I don't see many bucking horses needing chiropractors.
Yeah, didn't you even ask some of the stock contractors if they had much problem with navicular or colic or that kind of thing?
Yeah, and they said no. And the colic thing was funny. He said, maybe we have it, but we don't see it because we never watch our horses that much, but we never lose any from it, so maybe colic isn't as big a deal as we thought it was. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's just real interesting to me how much work we make out of things where we could just leave it alone and not make it near as big a deal.
Curt will talk about his research into how humans increase the stress level in horses and how that really affects their health when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. In our last segment, Curt Pate had observed a big difference in the bucking horses and the performance horses at a rodeo and horse show. Generally, the broncs were relaxed and healthy in their big corral, while many of the performance horses were anything but relaxed.
The stress we create in horses, I'm doing a lot of studying on biology and why stress affects things like it does, and it's real interesting to me what it happens. But when animals get stressed, really, I forgot to talk about this earlier, but what it is, I think of my body or my horse's body like a huge city, like Edmonton, and each cell is a person, and or maybe a huge bunch of cattle on a ranch, and each cell is a critter, a cow. They have 2 purposes: to survive and to grow. You can't do the both at the one time. You can either be grazing or running from a mountain lion. You can't do them both at once. So when we get into self-preservation, when an animal gets in self-preservation, their immune system shuts down. They don't have to worry about fighting off a cold. They're worrying about getting away from the mountain lion. And so when an animal is stressed, like calves or horses or whatever, their immune system shuts down, and that's why it's so easy to get influenza or BVD or whatever things we're getting with our horses or cattle, or because the immune system shuts down because they're in self-preservation mode trying to save their life. And so the other thing is, Sal, I've read this book. Now, this is kind of complicated stuff for a cowboy to be talking about.
I'm impressed.
I don't really understand it, but I'm really trying to figure it out. And another thing that's got me thinking, you ever notice people that raise milk pen calves, bottle calves? They got to be real special or they don't stay in business. They got to love those calves. And the calf has to feel loved, or else they die. That's the other thing that has to happen. They have to live. So growth, survival, and a horse has to have life. He has to have a reason to live. You see, and if he gets used too much and then put in a box stall and his head goes down, it's like being in prison. But when he's outside like a bucking horse and he can go out and run and kick and buck and play or go get under a shade tree, that's living. And I think our horses don't get to live. Like feedlot cattle. They're doing a lot of studies where they're taking feedlot cattle out and moving them around in the pasture a little bit, getting them out of the pen and let them run and buck and play. And their gains are much better and their sickness is way less because they're getting to live.
The way nature designed them.
The way nature designed them. The cavalry, they used to, one of the things they used to do when they had their horses stalled, they would call blow the cobwebs out of them. They would go out once or twice a week, I can't remember for sure what it was, and dead run a horse for so many minutes. And they figured that in the wild they got to do that, either getting chased or that's what they did. And so they kind of tried to stimulate that, and their horses got a lot healthier.
Curt talks about ranch rodeos, cowboys, and horsemen after this song about a young boy, his grandpa, and his grandpa's horse.
There's a lonesome cowboy riding on a dark Montana range. The sun, it is declining as all the seasons change. His grandpa used to ride this land on a big horse called Cheyenne. But the cowboy knows those bygone days have blown away like sand. Now a haunted line shack's waiting once he gathers up them strays. He'll think of long-lost cowboys who passed their nights this way. The ranchers he used to know had to sell out long ago to a company with airplanes and trucks that roll on snow. When Grandpa let old Cheyenne run, he swore that horse could fly. Back when the open prairie was endless as the sky. There once were spirit voices that echoed through these hills. They sang of braves and buffalo, but now the song is still. The cowboy hears a distant call, a sad and empty whine. Out on the plains it's just the voice of a giant steel combine. When Grandpa let old Cheyenne run, he swore that horse could fly. Back when the open prairie was endless as the sky. The cowboy looks across the hills where once the big horse ran. Tonight again he'd love to see Grandpa ride Cheyenne. There's a lonesome cowboy riding on a dark Montana range. The sun is declining as all his seasons change. Let the big horse run one more time. Let Cheyenne run just one more time.
Boy, I love the word pictures that one kicks up in your mind. Well, now back to the first time I got to sit down and visit with longtime horseman, cattleman, and animal behaviorist Curt Pate. We had a two nights of ranch rodeo competition just before you got here, and I just loved this. There were guys from working ranches across Alberta, BC, and Saskatchewan. It was invitational. The ranch had to have had a registered brand for at least 100 years. And they invited each ranch to send the best hands with their best horses, and they competed in actual working ranch events. And a lot of people said, man, those horses from the gang ranch have never been off there. They've never been to a place like Edmonton. They've never been in an arena. Those horses are going to go nuts. Didn't see that at all. We saw some of the, some of the performance horses getting a little bit wired at times, and certainly the barrel horses at times, and some of the others. But I kind of thought, these horses have spent 8, 9, 10 hours a day, several days a week with these guys, and these guys are top hands, so obviously their horsemanship's got to be pretty good. Those horses got to this arena, and all they said, you could just see the wheels going around. Hey, partner, this is a little different, but there's a cattle, and you're in control, and we can handle this. But a lot of them were telling me, we're not going to leave our horses in those stalls for 15 or 16 hours between performances. They were out riding around the parking lot. They were riding up and down the street. They were, getting those horses' minds back off of being in that stall.
That's something, yeah. And they see. So many people think that cowboys are so heartless and cruel, but they understood. Now that's a real thing. They might not have had blankets and all the...
Oh, no. They came in their long winter clothes, and there were no leg wraps or anything like that.
And you might have been watching and think, well, geez, that's not very nice. Those guys are kind of being unprotective of their horses. Yet they didn't want them to stand in the stall. So they took the effort and went and got on their back and rode them around. So that's really caring, if you ask me.
And you can watch the attitude of every one of those horses from all 13 of those teams. And those horses were completely relaxed and happy. There was no stress shown in their attitude at all.
Well, they knew how to relax. So the ranch horse, it doesn't matter where you are, as long as he's got his cowboy or somebody to buddy up with, if the partner is really a partner. Not somebody who just buys a bunch of stuff and feeds them sugar cubes. If they really truly are a partner, when they get in a wreck, or the rope comes tight, or they get hung up in wire, if that partner is really there, that horse, it doesn't matter if you're in Edmonton or out in the middle of wherever, he's going to come to you, and that's really a partner.
Well, if you don't laugh really hard at what Baxter Black has coming up, maybe you should check your pulse. And we're happy to bring you a track from a great new CD just released by Charlie Ewing, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, and I'll be right back after this with a little peek at trading buffalo.
Your land is a legacy, a challenge from those who tended it before you, to build on their foundations. At Corteva Agriscience, we understand what it means to be the stewards of a legacy. We embrace the challenge of building on the foundation of Dow AgroSciences, to maintain your trust, to bring new solutions, to help you care for your land. See how we can help build your legacy at rangeandpasture.com.
And for our Canadian listeners, just check Corteva.ca, the Canadian website.
Kenny was having a clearance sale. 4 buffalo cows and 1 bull. A country gentleman with 20 acres called, and a deal was made. The gentleman assured Kenny that he knew what he was doing. His wife and he already had 2 llamas, and he'd seen dances with wolves. He wanted the buffalo for traditional reasons. Well, he showed up at Kenny's place in a brand-new pickup and trailer that didn't have a scratch or a speck of manure on it. Kenny's own buffalo hauling trailer looked more like an armored car. Well, it took the gentleman 30 minutes and 40 acres to get backed up to the loading chute. He walked back wearing his brand-new black cowboy hat and carrying a bullwhip. "What do I do?" he asked. "Sit in the pickup till I get him loaded," hollered Kenny. Well, the cows complied, but the bull was being difficult. Finally, Kenny got him up to where he was sniffing the trailer floor when the gentleman poked his head around the corner, spooking the bull and causing Kenny to dive for cover. After re-instructing the gentleman to stay in the truck, Kenny snapped a long lead rope to a chain that hung from a ring in the bull's nose. He then ran the lead rope around a pipe in the trailer, took a dolly on a corral post, and worked the bull slowly back up the chute right to the trailer again. Once again, in an effort to help, the gentleman peered around the corner, scaring the bull, who pulled back so hard the snap broke. The lead rope whipped around, and the broken snap cracked across the gentleman's arm and broke it. "What do I do?" cried the gentleman. "Stay in the truck." Well, the third time was the charm. The bull loaded with a little help from a plastic bag and a fence stay, but he circled and banged and crashed around inside the trailer while the gentleman counted out the cash with his good arm. Suddenly, the bull charged the tailgate, got a horn under one horizontal bar, and ripped 3 of them loose. The welds popped like snaps on a shirt. The bull stuck his head out the hole. "What do I do?" hollered the gentleman. "Well, they're not mine," said Kenny, "but I believe about every couple minutes I'd slam on the brakes to keep him from making the hole bigger." Kenny watched as the truck and trailer headed down his driveway with the buffalo sticking out like a trophy on a den wall. And then he heard the screech of brakes and saw the buffalo disappear. Traditions don't come easy. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by Corteva Agri-Science.
Just ahead of the rangeland news, Charlie Ewing grew up horseback on Alberta's eastern slope, and he writes songs about the life he lives. His latest CD, called Skimmerhorn Waltz, has just been released, and it's full of wonderful original songs that Charlie's written, just like this one.
I spent my lifetime living just the way I wanted to. Freedom was my fundamental friend. Sometimes I may have asked for more, played the greedy fool. It's enough to sit and watch the tall grass waving in the wind. I've learned to count my blessings for the things that I've been given. Sometimes I wonder when it all will end. One good horse and one good woman makes a cowboy's life worth living. Let me ride with her and watch the tall grass waving in the wind. Waving in the wind, just like a river flowing. Waving in the wind, more wealth than you can spend. Waving in the wind, there's comfort in just knowing it's enough to sit and watch the tall grass waving in the wind. Like a river flowing, waving in the wind, more wealth than you can spend. Waving in the wind, there's comfort in just knowing it's enough to sit and watch the tall grass waving in the wind. Take her as she comes and like it, I heard the cowboy say, pulling up his collar with a grin. Bad weather, death, and trouble, they're coming anyway. So let's just sit a while and watch the tall grass waving in the wind. Waving in the wind, just like a river flowing. Waving in the wind, more wealth than you can spend. Waving in the wind, there's comfort in just knowing it's enough. Sit and watch the tall grass waving in the wind. I just love to sit and watch the tall grass waving in the wind.
Come and see the largest selection of well-broke horses in Western Canada at the 7th Annual Top Gun Horse Sale. The new date, May 30th, high noon, at the Cal Nash Event Center, Pinoca, Alberta. Preview the horses May 29th at 4 p.m. They start coming through the ring Saturday, May 30th, high noon. Over 200 horses expected. Horses for ranch work, team penning, rope and trail riding, barrels, mounted shooting, and kids' horses. Every type of horse you might be looking for, including loads of true ranch horses. Every horse will be ridden, driven, or led into the ring. For information and a look at the horses, see TopGunHorseSales.com or call Jordan Dodds, 403-783-0246.
The Rangeland News from the Spirit of the West. A roundup of issues and events from the world of agriculture.
This week, at the top of page 1, it says all 3 countries involved have now ratified the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement, and Rod Bain reports on when it's expected to be implemented and how it's going over in the U.S.
June 1st. That reportedly is the date the Trump administration is targeting as the date of implementation of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, USMCA, now that the Canadian Parliament has ratified that deal. Canadian approval was the final step taken among the 3 member nations to ratify the new trade agreement, and its full implementation is one anxiously awaited by much of the U.S. ag sector and its supporters. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue notes 2 domestic ag industries expected to benefit from USMCA.
The Canadian market opens up for some dairy products and other poultry and egg products.
And Agriculture Undersecretary for Trade and Foreign Agricultural Affairs Ted McKinney says our nation also looks forward to new and updated policies that should expand ag trade opportunities with our North American neighbors.
Brand new, never seen before language on the biosciences, the biotechnologies, the sanitary, phytosanitary chapters.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
A lot of you have been asking when the new season of Heartland will start. Well, that will be season 14, and the long-running CBC television show has enjoyed steady ratings and increased viewerships throughout its entire runtime. And okay, from what I can find out, you can expect Heartland season 14 to release sometime in September of this year. Professor Scott Weiss, who works in infectious diseases at the Ontario Veterinary College at the University of Guelph, says it's not yet known which animals could be infected with the COVID-19 virus, if any. However, he says folks with livestock should take some of the same precautions that they are taking with people in order to make sure they don't transmit the virus to their animals. Pigs are the main concern, he said, but until there's more information, anyone with the disease should be cautious around livestock. He added that the genetic makeup of the virus and how it attaches to cells could make it more likely to infect pigs compared to other animals. We've never seen anything like it before. We were watching her, and if we wouldn't have been watching her so closely, we would have never believed it. That was the reaction of Jenna Blaschuk when a Hereford cow in her family's 500-head commercial herd gave birth to a Hereford heifer, and then another heifer that was Black Angus. This was the 3rd set of twins born so far this spring on the Walter Blaschuk cattle operation near Chaplin, Saskatchewan, where there now are somewhere over 50 calves on the ground. Dr. John Campbell, a veterinarian and professor at the Western College of Veterinary Medicine in Saskatoon, said the phenomenon of twins with different sires is called heteropaternal twinning. It can occur when the cow ovulates more than one egg and then is bred by more than one bull. Well, in these times, I guess anything is subject to change. Here's the information I have as this show is being put together. Next scheduled regular cattle sale for the BC Livestock Co-op is April the 7th. The 45 annual All Breeds Bull Sale is April the 11th, and the 83rd annual Williams Lake Bull Sale April 17th. But be sure to keep checking the website bclivestock.bc.ca for updates. Meanwhile, the Innisfail Auction Market has regular cattle sales every Wednesday and lots of special sales, but keep checking their website, InnisfailAuctionMarket.com, for more updates. The Wandering Western Spirit Band is going to wander up to Fort St. John, BC for Concert 83, with my little brother Jim and his amazing guitar picking, along with our super bass player, Uncle Mike Daggert, and we'll be joining Tom Cole and friends at the Lido in Fort St. John, May 22nd and May 23rd, 7 p.m., one show each night. Tickets available at thelido.ca. That's THELIDO.ca, or you can call his number, 1-250-785-3011. Well, we're down to another final item. Okay, do you know what happens the week of April 19th to the 25th? Well, that is Cowboy Poetry Week. And how's this for a fitting one? A cowboy poet whose first name is Stan, his poetry never would scan. Once said with a pause, it's probably because I'm always trying to cram in as many extra syllables into the last line as I possibly can. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up in the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, I'll deal with a recent email from a listener whose happy mare doesn't seem to steer too well. There's more from Curt Pate and another amazingly good song from an Alberta cowboy when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. The Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File is coming up, and I'll discuss an email from a listener about a steering problem with her horse. And then you'll find out how Curt Pate learned to rope right-handed as well as left-handed. Right after another one for the season, Ryan Fritz was booked for the Kamloops Cowboy Festival before it had to be canceled, and he might have been planning to sing this one.
By the time water runs on North Range, by the time eagle cuts the sky, by the time crocus sees sunshine, I will be a long ways from your mind. By the time water runs on North Range, by the time those calves are dropping good, I'll be feeling mighty punchy, feeling just the way cowboys should. Nobody asks where I'm going, nobody knows where I've been. By the time the water runs on North Range, I will be where I just can't be found. I've been riding pins all winter. Don't you know I ain't saved a dime? By the time water runs on North Range, I will be on nobody's time. By the time water runs on North Range, by the time a skeeter hits my skin, I'll be shacked in the back of nowhere, thinking of places that I've been. Oh yeah, nobody asks where I'm going, nobody knows where I've been. By the time water runs on North Range, I will be where I just can't be found. Yes, I will be where I just can't be found.
Hugh McLennan and the Great Western Spirit Band, along with Tom Cole and friends, will be at the Lido Theater in Fort St. John, BC for 2 shows, May 22nd and 23rd at 7 p.m. The crisp, clean music of the West, great guitar picking, spellbinding stories, and lots of laughs.
Where the sky goes on forever, where those prairie winds blow so cold and hard.
Tickets available online at thelido.ca or call 1-250-785-3011. Or you can go to the Lido in person on 100th Avenue in Fort St. John.
Dream riding, dreaming my troubles away.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Hello, spring. Good riddance, winter. Time to celebrate with some serious shopping at Urban Tack and Western Wear. City, small town, ranch, or farm. Wherever you're from, Urban's has something for everyone. All the top names in jeans, shirts, boots, belts, jackets, hats, and much, much more. Check out the latest and suit up for spring Western style, Alberta style. So saddle up and shop till you drop at Urban's, exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield.
Don't just wear it, live it. Urban Tack and Western Wear.
Of course, if you just want to stay home and shop online, just go to urbansaddles.ca. Now, here's an email we got from a listener a little while ago. It says, "Hi, Mr. McLennan." I thought that was my dad. Anyway, I have an Appaloosa, about 7 years old and Greenbroke. I'm having a problem where she fights the bit when riding. She's okay when being ground-driven. When I want her to go right, she really fights and wants to pull to the left to relieve the pressure. While she's pulling, she drops her head. Then she walks to her relaxing zone where I tack and untack and groom her. I was wondering if you could help me with this project. If there's something else you need to know, contact me. We listen faithfully to the Spirit of the West on AM 1140. Well, thank you. Signed, Kelly. Well, dear Kelly, without being there and watching you with your horse, I really can't offer much specific advice. From what you said, it sounds like some of the important building blocks of her foundation might be missing. Now, there are a lot of things a rider can do to control 4 important elements that need to be in place before the horse is ready for much riding. Those are bend, balance, speed, and path. And you need to be able to control all of them with a willing response. Now, it sounds like your mare has taken over the path, and I think you'll need to find a way to get it back under your direction. Now, I don't know how much experience you've had with green horses, but if it's limited, I'd strongly suggest having a good trainer assess her for you, and there are lots of them in your area. Good luck. And for Urban Saddles and Western Wear, that's the Horse Training File. Every day our horses get that feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration, and we know it really makes them look good and feel good. You can find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. Come and see the largest selection of well-broke horses in Western Canada at the 7th Annual Top Gun Horse Sale. The new date, May 30th, high noon, at the Cal Nash Event Center, Pinoca, Alberta. Preview the horses May 29th at 4 p.m. They start coming through the ring Saturday, May 30th, high noon. Over 200 horses expected. Horses for ranch work, team penning, rope and trail riding, barrels, mounted shooting, and kids' horses. Every type of horse you might be looking for, including loads of true ranch horses. Every horse will be ridden, driven, or led into the ring. For information and a look at the horses, see TopGunHorseSales.com or call Jordan Dodds, 403-783-0246. Well, it won't be long until we'll be heading for the neighborhood spring brandings with my Bob Kaufman saddle, my trusty 35-foot rope, and my good horses. And I sure hope I don't embarrass myself in the branding pen. I only rope right-handed, but Curt Pate, it turns out, can rope with either hand. I noticed that you're roping left-handed and putting on and on. That was I don't know what your comments were about it, but I thought that was a pretty nice scoop loop you caught that horse with. But you're throwing it left-handed, but you're drinking your coffee with your right hand.
Well, I try to do things both-handed. I can rope right-handed or left-handed. I rope better left-handed, and but I don't know if you noticed I was coiling and doing a lot with my right hand once I got him that way. But it's just because the thing is everybody should be this way, but I was lucky. When I was a kid, I got hurt real bad in a bull riding accident and paralyzed my left arm. And I was left-handed, and it was paralyzed for 6 months, and I didn't have Nintendo or any of those things, so I just roped. So, of course, I roped the dummy while I was recovering, and I just learned to rope right-handed.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
now you can do it either way, but if you're at a big branding and you're going to be dragging 100 calves to the fire, will you switch off, or you do it all the same way?
Oh, it depends. I'm kind of lazy. I usually go back to left-handed where I can, I take branding real serious. And anything I do with livestock, that's a good thing to bring up. If you go to a branding, I think you should be an excellent roper and do as much as you can to get that calf to the fire and back to his mother with as low as stress, and I think people take that way not serious enough. I think it's a responsibility of the handler of livestock. So if I'm going to rope and drag calves, I'm going to rope left-handed and get it done real good and get it over. Now if I'm practicing or if I'm at a ranch roping or whatever, I might rope right-handed in the practice pen, just because to teach I need to be able to show it right-handed. But if I'm really trying to doctor a yearling that maybe his life depends on it, I'm going to do as best as I can. Yeah. In the round pen, I like to rope right-handed just because it gets me better.
Well, about the time we're getting this program off the ground in 1992, the much-loved cowboy poet and founding member of the Kamloops Cowboy Festival, Mike Pahallo, gave me a couple of cassettes. One of them was Sunlight on Silver from Bain and Sharman Crane, and the other one was from a guide outfitter and a youth worker from Sundre, Rob Holland. And I came across it again this week. It's been buried under a pile of stuff for years, and I thought you'd enjoy this one. It really fits with the scene as you ride into the yard after a long day on the trail where you've been lost in the absence of time.
Day's work is over, the sun setting low. The mountains are cast in a faint orange glow. Don't know why I'm so lonesome, don't know why I'm so blue. Tomorrow I'll be drifting with the fresh morning dew. And my home is high in the Rockies, up near the whispering pines, near clear mountain streams and misty green valleys, lost in the absence of time, lost in the absence of time. Been working this range a couple of years, and nothing to show but blood, sweat, and tears. But tomorrow I'll be drifting, well, I'm heading it west to a land of no time, where a man does his best. And my home is high in the Rockies, up near the whispering pines, near clear mountain streams and misty green valleys, lost in the absence of time, lost in the absence of time.
Wonderful place to be when you can find yourself there, lost in the absence of time. That's Rob Holland, cowboy pastor and longtime guide and outfitter from Sundre, Alberta. Coming up is the classic Song of the West for this week, and then the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. For the classic Song of the West this week, we look to the words of James Barton Adams, born April 17th, 1843, and died in 1918. And he was one of the very few cowboy poets published prior to the 1900s in a book called Breezy Western Verse in 1889. He worked as a cowboy on Captain Jack Crawford's New Mexico ranch from 1890 to 92. Then he became a newspaper columnist and wrote poems that are still recited and set to music today. The beloved cowboy balladeer Don Edwards took an Adams poem called The Cowboy Life, set it to music, and it became this, a song of the range.
Well, the ball of a steer to a cowboy's ear is the music of sweetest strain, and the whelping notes of the gray coyotes to him are a glad refrain. And his jolly songs, they speed him along as he thinks of a little gal with golden hair who is waiting there at the bars of the home corral. High-low, high-lay for the range away on the deck of a bronc of steel, with the careless flirt of a rawhide quirt, the dig of a rowel heel, the rapid beat of his bronco's feet on the sod as he speeds along, keeps living time to the ringing rhyme of his rollicking cowboy song. His eyes are bright and his heart is light as the smoke of his cigarette. There's never a care for his soul to bear, no troubles to make him fret. A kingly crown in a noisy town, his saddle he would not change. No life so free as the life we see way out on that cattle range. High-low, high-lay for the work is played when love's in the cowboy's eyes, when his heart is light as the clouds are white that swim in the summer skies. The winds may howl, the thunder growl, oh, the breeze may softly moan. The rider's life is the life for me, the saddle my kingly throne. High-low, high-lay for the work is played when love's in the cowboy's eyes, when his heart is light as the clouds of white that swim in the summer skies. The winds may howl, the thunder growl, oh, the breeze may softly moan. The rider's life is the life for me, the saddle my kingly throne.
Well, here is the latest on the next Spirit of the West cruise, and by now you probably won't be surprised to hear that we have had to make some changes. We will not be able to do the trip that we've been telling you about for the last several months. We will be postponing what Billy and I have been calling our Farewell Spirit of the West cruise until 2021. Now that, of course, is a huge disappointment for all of us, and in these unprecedented times, things are changing by the day, and no one really knows what's around the next turn of the trail. We still expect to have just about everything we had planned for this year in place for next year, and Jim and Karen have said that if you'd like to come then, your deposits can be held and applied to that cruise. We were already making plans and preparations for having the whole group start things off with a visit to our place and a concert with the Western Spirit Band and special guest Lewis the Big Rig McIver, my kidney donor. I've taken his kidney on 2 cruises already, and this was the one that he and Tammy were looking forward to joining us on. And the Western Spirit Band has already been practicing. Oh, well, we should be even better by next year. We want to thank all of you who were planning on joining us in July and hope that you will be able to adjust the dates and join us in 2021. We will be keeping you informed with the details as they become available and as soon as possible. And as always, Megan, Jim, and Karen can give you the details at 1-800-530-0131.
This is cowboy singer, songwriter, and poet Bren Hill. Cowboy poetry is the voice of the working West, as alive today as it has been for over 125 years, telling the stories of real ranch life. Learn more about it and Cowboy Poetry Week at cowboypoetry.com, a project of the Center for Western and Cowboy Poetry.
Cowboy Poetry Week is April 10th to 25th, and the fine poet and cowgirl Kathy Moss was booked for the 2020 Kamloops Cowboy Festival, and of course it couldn't happen, but this is one of her newest ones. It's called Echoes.
Listen, my friend, and you shall hear the echoes down the canyon as they draw near. The cries, the yips, the hoofbeats that echo off the wall, the whispers of the wild that beckon one and all. You may not see them now, my friend, you may not know their face, but you can hear them calling for you to take your place among the valleys and the mountains, among the sage and trees, among the men before you. Can you hear it in the breeze? Close your eyes and listen. Grab your saddle and your chinks, for they are riding in to take you to the brink. They ride hard for yesterday, so tomorrow won't forget the call of the wild, and they have no regret. They gather, sort, they work until the last. They dally up and drag 'em, or they tie 'em hard and fast. The cowboy or vaquero, it don't matter the name, for that blood runs thick and it courses through your veins. You've been fighting it a long time, standing against the wind. Know when you were different from those who transcend, and as you listen to those echoes, I see it on your face. You are where you belong, as the wind whispers a trace of hooves, horns, and rawhide, the horses and steers, all that you stand for, the blood, sweat, and tears. And when in a lonely night you feel you want to cry, when darkness smothers you and you feel you want to die, just listen for those echoes. Hear them calling you. Know that you're among the best in all that you do. Think of those before you who rode tall and bold. Think of what they stood for and the freedom that you hold. Then grab your saddle and your chinks when you hear that distant call, the hooves, horns, and horses when you hear the cattle bawl. You'll know why you stand for freedom. You'll know why you stand for pride. You'll know why each morning you saddle up and ride. So listen, my friend, and you shall hear the echoes down the canyon as they draw near. For that thunder in the distance, it's not the hint of rain. It's the past riding for you, and it's calling out your name.
Well, thanks so much for joining the ride again this week, and I'd love to have you back next week at the same time right here. And thanks to our hard-working support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. And here is something to keep in mind if you're looking for tractor parts, any make, any year. Mark can help you with his page, bctractorparts.com. And we spent quite a bit of time last week going over all of our back issues of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. Man, what a wealth of great reading there over the years. And if you enjoy this show, I know you'll enjoy Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. You can subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com or call them at 1-800-943-7336. And just so you know, The Spirit of the West is now on YouTube as well as downloadable as a podcast. The links are on our website, hugh-mclennan.com. And if you enjoy it, please like and subscribe. That really helps us. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.